Hello, and welcome to Art for Kids with Mimi. This stamped Christmas tree project is a perfect project for a family with young children, although the older children will like doing it too. This project is one that I used with my first graders to introduce the concept of printmaking. We also did a little bit of counting, some shape recognition, and just had a lot of fun with making our Christmas trees creative and original. The one on the left you can see was my little scientist. You can see the trunk and the branches. The one in the middle, that's my Star Wars fan. That tree is holding two lightsabers. And the one on the right has a lot of presents under that pretty tree. To make your trees, you'll need a number of supplies. Some of them are things around the house. Others you'll need to go and buy. Definitely have plenty of paper towels on hand. After all, we are using paints and glitter with young children. A styrofoam plate makes a great paint mixing palette. You can also use, this is a long craft stick. You can use old popsicle sticks, whatever you have. I like these foam brushes for mixing and spreading paints as well. These are bathroom tissue tubes from the used bathroom tissue. You can also use paper towel tubes, cut them in half, make them a little bit smaller and easier to manage. I'm using Elmer's Glue All, but you could also use school glue or any brand of glue. If you have Mod Podge works as well, just basically an inexpensive glue. We'll be using paints, and for this demonstration, I'm using red and green primary colors. This is Creatology brand. It's a craft store brand. Places like Michael's and AC Moore will probably have it. This one came in a set of 6, so it also included the blue and yellow and some mixing black and white. So it's a nice primary color set to have on hand for using with children anyway. And then, not for the faint of heart, but we'll need some loose glitter. I have a lot of different colors. This is also a Creatology brand. You can see that a lot of my Snow White is gone. That was my grandson's favorite color when we were doing our Christmas ornaments. But I also have gold and silver and some red and some green. And the last thing you're going to need to have is a fairly large piece of paper for the children to work on. I like this Canson watercolor pad. It's large. It's an 11 by 15 size sheet because when working with children, especially young children, you do want to have a nice large piece of heavyweight paper for a project like this. So I'm going to tear out a large sheet of the paper. And you'll notice if you're using watercolor paper, there's a slightly rough side and there's a very smooth side. For this project, it really doesn't matter which side you're using. First thing we're going to do is prepare a palette with the green because we're going to do the trees first. And since this is a brand new container, it still has its little seal on it. I'm going to open that up. And because we're going to be doing a fairly large tree, I want to make sure that I have a good bit of paint on my tray. A nice blob like that one. And then I'm going to add, because I want, you can do this without the glue, but you'll find that your glitter will stick better over the long haul if you do this. So add some glue, like so. And then use your craft stick or your brush to stir up your glue into your paint. It may make your paint look a little bit lighter, but as your paint dries and you've got the glitter on it, it's going to be just fine. So I'm not using the brush. You could also spread it out with the brush. I like the stick. It leaves a little bit more of it on the palette. Once you've prepared your paint, we're ready to get started. I have my paper tube resting in the mixed paint. That's a good place to keep it while you're working. And I have a piece of my heavyweight watercolor paper, like so. And because I want to put a star at the top of the tree, it's helpful, especially when working with young ones who don't have a sense of where to leave a space, to go ahead and draw that star shape where the top of the tree is going to be. So now I'm going to move this up, and we're going to start. This is a great counting activity. I have my paint on the edge of the tube, and I'm going to simply stamp the first ring. I'll do a second set of overlapping rings, so now I have 2 rings, and between each set of rings I'll need to refresh. And now I'm going to do 3 rings. Might need to refresh my paint in the middle of that. Next step will be 4. And you'll notice that some children will be very precise in the placement of their rings, and others will just have a blast making rings, and they'll be all over the page, and you can get some really fascinating little shapes. Depending on how wide your paper is, right now I'm up to 6, and I'm going to still have a little more room to go wider. So I should be able to go to 7. And then it's perfectly okay to add, I'm going to just add a slightly shorter rule. I have about 5 here, just to give my tree a little shape. Older children will understand that. Younger children, maybe not so much. Younger children may also continue putting stamps all over, because there's a certain amount of pleasure in stamping. Okay, while your paint is still wet, you're going to want to add your glitter. I'm going to use this light colored snowflake kind of glitter. You don't want to put it on, keep it to the shaker mode so that so much glitter isn't on there that we lose the painting. I'm going to add just a little bit of this snowflake glitter. You can add other colors. You could add a little bit of green, which will of course pick up the green, and I'm going to add a little bit of red, just have a little red. But you want to make sure you're still seeing some of your paint colors. And give that a few minutes to dry. It doesn't have to be perfectly dried before you shake it off. I'm going to spread out some newspaper and old flyer and just tap off. If you have a trash can handy, this is an easy one to just hang over the trash can and just tap off all that glitter so it's not all over the place. And we have a pretty nice, nicely glittered little tree. Now there are a number of ways to finish your tree, which is why I suggested that there be some red paint handy. You can use your glue. If you have a drawn star, you can go over your star with some glue, like so. And add some gold glitter. And that will give you a really pretty, this one you do want to have a little heavier application. And leave that on for a few minutes while it's drying. Underneath the tree, it's a lot of fun for kids to put packages under the tree. I have students, I usually would give my students a box of markers at this point, and they would draw packages under the tree. Some would make elaborate little tree stands, or they would write Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, draw little angels in the background, a lot of, cute things of that sort. So at that point, you can pretty much decorate your tree any way that you want to. You can also do ornaments in a couple of different ways, and I'm going to demonstrate that next. If you want to make a really sweet little keepsake tree, get your red paint, put just a small dab on your styrofoam plate, and use your foam brush or a paintbrush to spread it out a little bit. And use thumbprints to put cute little thumb-printed ornaments on and around the tree. I would recommend that if you're going to do this for your ornaments, that you also make sure that everything else is nice and dry before you begin. So that's one way to add some ornaments to the tree. Another is to do something very similar to the star, and instead of doing that, you can also make little ornament shapes and then get your glitter and glitter your ornaments like so. So thumbprint ornaments make a really nice little keepsake, and ornaments, you can also, if you don't want to use paint, you could use a red stamp pad. However, the paint will wash off children's fingers just a little bit better. Once you have all your glittering done, either over the trash can or over your paper, tap things off. And you have a very sweet little tree all ready, and it was a lot of fun to do. And there you have it, a fun and fairly easy project to do, even with the youngest members of your family. I did forget to mention one important thing: cover your work surface. And I highly recommend just a plastic tablecloth from the party supply department at your local store or party supplies shop. And as you'll notice in these images here, we did sometimes do cutout stars out of some gold paper, so you can decorate your tree in many different ways. Just have fun.